Welcome back. It is always a good day. When I wake up, I give thanks, and the realization comes over me that I am privileged to introduce you to another very exciting guest. This one, a return guest. I'll get to her in just a moment. I just want to do a quick shout out. Great cities that have been finding the podcast and downloading the podcast. And St. Louis came through in a huge way. I don't know if there's a bunch of near-death experiencers there because I had PMH Atwater on. I'm not sure, but I'll take it. So thank you, St. Louis. Cool city in the Midwest. El Cajon, California, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, Winnipeg, San Jose, Portland, Sydney, Australia, and then Sunderland, England. And I think that's because I had Jim McCarty, the renowned drummer of the Yardbirds, was on sharing his story about Lizzie. So I'm just so very grateful. The show is growing in leaps and bounds, and I'm really just delighted to be here. My guest today, she is amazing. Out of everyone I've ever had on The Next Room, this lady really resonates with the Next Room audience. Her name is Sandra Champlain. You know her, you love her. We Don't Die Radio is where you can find her. She is doing it all. So welcome back to The Next Room, Sandra. I'm so happy you're joining me today.
You're so sweet. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm grateful you asked. I always have something to say. I don't know what it'll be, but I do.
You know, the thing I think I like the most about you, well, there's many things, but it's your utter your transparency, your honesty, you're authentic. There's just no BS in your game. And I really think that's key in this day and age, and not only in this day and age, but in this topic. So let's just start with WeDon'tDieRadio.com. And that's kind of where everybody can go find you. Or is it just WeDon'tDie.com?
We've done it just WeDon'tDie.com. The other website works, takes you to the same place.
Yeah. Okay. So, Sandra, you started off as a skeptic. A lot of people know your story, but for those that do not, tell me how a skeptic ended up being one of the premier leaders in the afterlife movement.
Well, thanks for asking me. Yeah, I'll condense the story because people can go back to the earlier episode. But in brief, I was raised by two great parents, but they taught us, which I think a lot of people do, you got to see it to believe it. And in our town, we had a local psychic medium who would make predictions and things, and she was always wrong. Dad was an airline pilot, mom travel agent, started her own business with me. She's still around. Dad has passed. But I just naturally grew up with that feeling, got to see it to believe it. And, I had a very big ego early on. I certainly did, because I'd go to a bookstore and I'd see people in that metaphysical or spiritual section. And Jane, I'd just feel sorry for them because I thought, there's no proof in that stuff, people. But if that supports you in life, does no harm. We were raised Catholic, went to Catholic school almost all my years. And even though I went to Catholic school, I can't say I was a person of faith. It's just what we had to do, because I think the Catholic school was a little safer than the public school. So I grew up as anybody. And in the mid 90s or so, I developed a huge fear of dying. That just seemed to come out of the blue. Looking up at the stars, it's like, who am I? What is my life for? What if it all ends? I don't know why I had it. My mom seems to think that when I was a teenager, I volunteered in a nursing home, and a lot of the nice people that I would meet and sit with, they died. So maybe that's underneath it all. Looking back, I think it was the divine, or whatever you want to call God, that might have said, okay, this is her wake-up call. Because what it did, Jane, is it very secretly had me going, looking for answers that would rest my own fear. I never thought I'd share this with anybody, because I always thought those people living in that spiritual realm, that talking the jargon, I would say, that wasn't real. But very slowly, I started gathering information about things that made me have to believe. And I went into detail, I know before, but one of the biggest tipping points was seeing a medium do a demonstration. And at the time I thought, all the people in the audience were plants, because she's trying to make money, right? It's all about money. And then something inside of me told me this was not made up. And I took a weekend course with that medium, and she had the promise that if you attend the class, you'll be someone who can accurately tell the deceased people around others. Not believing it, but still, I had to quench that fear of dying. I took the course. And the example that I have, which is very, very real, is she told us to make up a person behind the partner we were working with. And of course, I knew nobody there. And I simply made up with my eyes closed that this woman's grandfather was standing behind her. His name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark. He had a big gap between his front teeth. He died of lung cancer. You know, I was seeing him, I was seeing the puffing on the cigarette and feeling all these things. And then the final thing was that he never said, I love you to his own daughter, which was this woman's mom. So with my eyes open, I was ready to say, okay, it's your turn. And she's just crying because her grandfather's name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark, died of lung cancer. And all the stories were true, that he never said, I love you to the mom. So that cracked the door open, but it didn't crack it enough for me to tell anybody about this. So the fear of dying really started to dissipate. And I knew that there was something to this. So I took every course imaginable. I studied everything from near-death experiences, reincarnation, remote viewing, hypnosis. I mean, I was everywhere. And I took a weekend course in electronic voice phenomena, and that is capturing the sounds from people in the afterlife, that they can manipulate sounds. And that really sounded too good to be true. But of course, it's not. It doesn't happen every time, but every so often there's a loud, clear voice. And on this particular weekend that I was taking a retreat, learning about these EVPs and only recording the sound of raindrops, I also recorded with the intent. I was talking to my grandparents and my aunt and uncle. I said, if you guys are real and I'm supposed to help people believe in the afterlife, I need you to speak very loudly. And then I'll say goodnight. And it was just me alone in a cabin recording the rain. And I only let it record for a minute. And towards the end of the recording, it says, good night, Sandra, in a man's voice. Two women say, good night, and then you hear, good night. Well, that changed my world. And yes, goosebumps, of course. There's actually some fear, because I thought, are people always around me? Can they always see me? Is there no privacy? Sure. And no, that's not it. People have their lives to live, whether they're on this side of the veil or the other. But it gave me what I needed audibly to be able to proceed. And so I just volunteered my time with people who had loved ones who passed away, just to see if we'd get voices back. And we did. Well, I got busy in life. So that afterlife stuff got put on the back burner. My mom and I were caterers for a number of years, over 30 years, cooking for race car teams. And in my being, I knew that I'm somebody who's supposed to share this, but that fear of what people will think, it kept me back. And I just used the excuse, I'm just busy, someday, but not now, someday, but not now. And it was January of 2010 that my dad got diagnosed with cancer. He had a tumor that broke apart his spine, the poor guy. And over the next 5 months, even though they thought they had the cancer licked, they didn't. And he breathed his last breath on May 11th of 2010. And in that time, Jane, it was rough. I mean, I was right there by my dad's side for as much time as I could, for most of it anyways. And my brother and sisters, they were married with kids and busy. And something happened that you hear about with families. My siblings and I began to fight about dad's care. And once he passed, it was fighting about his stuff. And it just didn't fit my family. Like, we always said that we were not going to let this happen.
Sure.
I got outcast. It became me, because I was there with dad the most. Somehow it became, I wanted his money, something like that. And not knocking my siblings, and actually grateful for them, because it got so bad, Jane, that I hit rock bottom. I didn't want to go on. I wasn't going to take myself out of life, but I certainly understood people that feel that way, because grief is the worst thing imaginable. So long story short, I fueled my energy, my grieving energy, into finding out why grief hurts so bad, why good, healthy people would turn into such monsters. And I opened up this world past the stages, because they all have those stages, um, acceptance, denial, all that stuff. But I found this world of how our human composition actually changes when we grieve, that when we love somebody, that's like a chemical bond. And when that bond is broken, we go through grief and we lose some healthy neurotransmitters. And this whole world just opened up, and I realized neurotransmitters were responsible for our mood and our perception of the occurring world. And I got into this world of what happened with my siblings and I, why we behaved the way we did, what happens when we grieve. And so I created an audio called How to Survive Grief, still out there on YouTube. Just put it out there for people. And in a very short time, it seemed to go viral. And people responded that not only it helped them with their grief, helped them understand their families, how their behavior, but then people started reporting they choose not to kill themselves because of those. So that moral responsibility took over. I always knew that if I ever had a book, it would be called We Don't Die. And the subtitle, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death, is profound because I didn't believe in it. So I thought maybe that would give permission for people to read it. And chapter 10 of the book is about grief. And if any one of your listeners or viewers want a free copy of it, at my website, wedon'tdie.com, very bottom of the page, enter your name and your email address. It says you just get the first few chapters, but the truth is, it is the entire book. It is. And I want everybody to just fast forward to chapter 10 because that's so important.
Wow.
And yes, so it's my journey of why I believe in the after death, that life after death at that point. Now that's 10 years ago. And I actually have 2 podcasts now. I have over 570 hours of episodes. So I am committed to share about grief. And then if we don't die, who are we and how to have a powerful life while we're here. And I never thought that I would be this messenger. And like you said, being authentic, I learned long ago that everybody else is taken. I used to think I had to be a certain look or a really polished to tell my story. And I realized that who I was most interested in, even who we watch on television or on the news, whoever, is people that are real. So, we've all got that handled. So I thought, just be me. And so I wanted to continue pursuing reasons to believe in the afterlife, but I was too busy with my full-time career. So I started We Don't Die Radio almost 10 years ago, this week, actually. And I just thought, I have these conversations and I'll get something from them. And then hopefully other people would as well. So I didn't know the inner workings. I just followed a video on how to do this. And a couple years later, I got asked to speak at an afterlife conference, and they had over 700 people who attended. And the organizer said, I need to tell you, we put a little line in, how did you find out about this workshop or this conference? And he says over 550 people said that they listened to We Don't Die Radio. And that was shocking to me and delightful, of course. And then fast forward to 2020 when COVID hit. At that point, I've really been at this now for a long time. And I was lucky enough to be a guest on Coast to Coast AM with the great George Norrie a couple of times. And the producer, Tom Danheiser, contacted me and he says, we're starting an iHeartRadio Coast to Coast paranormal network of podcasts. And if you're interested, we want you to be the premier show. And we're going to call it Shades of the Afterlife. And so I just completed 3 years of episodes on that. I'm in my 4th right now. I submit every week 4 12-minute segments. They put the commercials in and out it goes to the world. They talk about it almost nightly on Coast to Coast AM. And so while that show, I'm more a reporter on the afterlife and I talk about different subjects within each and every episode. Whereas my We Don't Die Radio, that is just strictly interviews with great people like yourself, of course. And so I continually, weekly, look for reasons to believe. Not only that, and especially if we have time today, I'd love to tell your listeners and followers some great ways that they can communicate with their own loved ones, because there's many, 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 many reasons to believe, Jane, whether it's mediums, the different kinds of mediums, electronic voice phenomena, the zillions of stories of near-death experiences and what people experience. Not only regular people, but blind people can see for the very first time. There's a world of people doing things with, it's called instrumental transcommunication. They're collecting audios, and they're also collecting pictures of people in the afterlife, like the great Sonia Rinaldi and others. And these are not cloudy, blurry images that your mind could think maybe it's a person. No, they look three-dimensional, and they are loved ones' faces. And they could be somebody, you could have died when they're old. Maybe a younger picture comes through. If they had glasses and a big mustache, maybe in the picture they don't anymore. They show themselves as they want to be seen, which is healthy, well, and whole. I'm fascinated by the work of Dr. Christopher Kerr, a hospice doctor, who wrote a book and has a movie, Death is But a Dream. Not only is it a few moments before we die that somebody might look up and talk to their loved one, but he actually reports it's 3 to 4 weeks that people have dreams that are so real. They are so as if it's somebody that is alive and well, that kind of dream. They're convinced they see their loved ones. And again, they're healthy, they're well, they're young, and they tell them they're going on a trip. It is so comforting to me to know that we all have this committee that brings us across, so the fear isn't there. There's something called terminal lucidity. Somebody's brain could be completely gone, filled with tumors, and in those last moments they could spring to life and have a perfectly good conversation with someone. And it's just beautiful. I mean, we are so magnificent. Science and medicine is really involved in this. And even though our skeptical minds don't want to think they are, there's a great organization I just found on scientificandmedical.net. And there's a whole crew of people that talk about consciousness being outside of the body. And these are the medical and scientific people. The Institute for Noetic Sciences, our friends at ions.org. My latest fascination is with what's called lucid dreaming. I interviewed Dr. Garrett Yant from Ions, and he was talking about an experiment that he did with a group of people who had PTSD and were suffering greatly from it. And he and I think it was Charlie Morley, who teaches this lucid dreaming, taught these people how they can wake up during the night, how they do different exercises to get into that dream state, which they're highly conscious, even though their body is asleep. And 76% of the people were able to deal with whatever the emotions are and let go they no longer have PTSD. So I had this little aha moment. Is it possible for us to connect with our own deceased loved ones in that state? And I downloaded a course, even though I haven't done it yet, Jane, but I am on the path, like I want to prove this is real. So just as a little instance, I have been paying attention during the day, and this is what they teach you to say, is this a dream? Is this a dream? Is this a dream? And paying really close attention to what's going on in our life, looking at our hand, saying, am I in a dream? And am I in a dream? And we can wake up at night. And then if we say, am I in a dream? You look at your hand. So I actually did this. My thumb was on the other side, right? So that told me I was in a dream. And then I said, okay, I'm in a dream. I can create anything. And it's clearer than any other dream you have. You're dreaming, you're in it. And I know there's a whole world of things possible there. But what I did is I put down 2 folding chairs in my mind. There they were. And I invited my dad in. And Jane, my dad came in. I can tell you exactly what he was wearing. I could see him. I got a hug. And now if you were to ask me to imagine my dad's voice, it's very difficult. Like I can kind of feel it, but it's not 100% there. Jane, he was talking to me loud and clear in his own voice. So I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. So this is the thing I'm passionate about studying now, because if that's possible with the PTSD people, if I got a little taste of it, I think there's more to it. I really do. So what I know our time is limited here. If it's okay with you, I just want to talk about some different ways that people can be in touch with their loved ones. Do you need to?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I just take over on interviews, but
No,
I'm
this is
passionate.
good. No, I know
Passionate.
you are. This is good. And I just want to circle back. It is truly the reason why you resonate, because it's obvious that this isn't about making a buck for you. This is about you doing a deep dive and learning more so that you can help move us forward and help educate us and really who isn't grieving on the planet. So please, the floor is yours.
Bless you, my friend, and bless you for listening and viewing, all Jane's listeners here at the next room. Okay, so I'll do like a countdown.
Okay.
Number 5, I put electronic voice phenomena. It's a pain in the neck. It's difficult to do. You don't always get good results. It's something you really have to commit to. It's like learning a different language. You know, you hear, like I heard raindrops, and you have to disassociate what you hear in the raindrops. And so it's possible, but it's not for everybody, and it's hard work. So that's electronic voice phenomena. Now, countdown number 4, I would say signs from your loved ones. Okay. So your loved ones want you to know that they're alive, because they are. They're alive. They still have their personalities. They just don't happen to be walking here. They can have one foot in our world, keeping an eye on us, as we see in good medium demonstrations, but they're also living their life on the other side. I think we can be specific and ask our loved ones for signs, you know, whatever that may be, and then pay attention. Pay attention. Okay. So it's not so easy, because not everybody can learn to turn on lights and off lights and on all that, but pay attention. So I think the world of dreams would be my number 3. Besides the world of lucid dreaming, we can certainly talk to our loved ones during the day. We can ask them to show up in our dreams. We know it is them when we can remember it, and it is clear and it's filled with love. Unfortunately, our dreams are meant to, I think, process what goes on in our day-to-day life and work out different emotions and feelings. So if you have a dream that's negative, not good, and then it's fragmented, that is not a dream visitation. Love, when love is present and clarity is present, there it is. Okay. So we can ask our loved ones. I think with our loved ones, they want us to know they're around, but it can't be one of these things. I tried it once, it didn't work. So that, you know, it's not possible. Make an appointment with your loved ones. I think number 2, I would put as journaling. I've talked to enough people through my shows to know that very often when someone starts to write, they feel the presence of their loved one sneak in, and it's almost as if their loved one continues to write. You may call it automatic writing, inspired writing, something like that. But to have a journal, or you can even use your computer, why not? And have a conversation with your loved one. And in the beginning, Jane, you may feel the answers that are coming through are your answers, and that's fine. You know, you can imagine what they would say. But like I said, the more you do it, it's like suddenly you'll notice that, boy, I wouldn't normally say this. My loved one would have said this. And so it's a very healing and therapeutic thing. And in the beginning, it could be 99% you, 1% them. But as time goes on, that number shifts. And so sometimes you'll get some incredible philosophy and words of inspiration that you say, man, there's no way I could have come up with that.
Right.
So that would be number 2. And number 1 way to be in touch with your loved one, I say, is just talk to them. Okay. You don't need to spend a lot of money and go to a medium. In fact, I think anybody who finds a medium, you should always make sure they have this 10-minute guarantee that if you're not happy in the first 10 minutes, you don't pay. They're out there. Someone once told me you shouldn't pay any more than a nice haircut. So you don't need to spend hundreds of dollars on a medium. Make sure they have that guarantee. But we can talk to them ourselves. Mediums just train, but we all have the ability. Our loved ones will show up in our feelings. They'll show up in our imagination. And so we always say, oh, that was just my imagination. Well, absolutely. You want to talk to your loved one, have a memory of that you're with them and you're together. And then just ask them, can you talk to me? Can you show me something else? And it could be as easy as like a slideshow coming into your mind of different things that you've done together, or having that feeling that they're there. So we have to get the bulb rolling with our imagination, and then they can come in and they can also plant seeds and thoughts and feelings that you didn't just come up with. And even if, depending on the relationship you had, you can always sit and say, okay, come close to me. And if you had an intimate relationship, or mom or child, just ask them to put a little kiss on your cheek or touch your head, and see if you can feel the little change in vibration, maybe the goosebumps. And if you don't, just say, I didn't feel it today, but let's do this same time tomorrow. Like I said, Jane, they want to be in touch with us as much as we want them to be in touch. And so it is still a relationship. They are still alive. There is no time on their side. So what might occur to us is 2 years. It might be nothing to them, might just be a blink of an eye. So you have to have patience. I think once we do enough work to know that the afterlife is very real, we don't have to be hanging on to our loved ones so much. We can gently pay attention and feel them out of the blue and go, oh, you're here. Thanks. I'm glad you're with me on this. But not, what I'm trying to say is we need to continue our life knowing that they're still alive and that we're going to see them again.
I love that. All of what you just said is actually rather practical. I mean, this is not that woo-woo to, it's the electronic voice might be a little bit harder for people to grasp, but, the signs, certainly, whether it's through nature or coins or feathers or whatever. And I love what you said about asking, but also once you do receive a sign, you need to believe that it truly is a sign. So many people want to be practical and just think that it's their imagination, like you said, running away with them. But they're very much part of our day-to-day life. So that was all really good. Talk to them, journaling, very good one. Dreams, lucid dreaming, signs, all practical, great advice. Oh my gosh, day before Halloween, the veil is thinning. All Souls is on the way. Dia de los Muertos is on the way. Is there anything special that you do this time of year because of what we've been taught and scientists have told us, and metaphysical bookstores have given us kind of all this information about the veil being very thin between us and them? Is there anything special you would share?
I don't think special due to the time of year, because Jane, I think we can make it happen anytime or allow it to happen. I say, for whatever reason, most of us humans have these egos that think the universe revolves around us. But to our tiniest bit of DNA, all we are is vibrating energy. If we put a little camera in one of the atoms that make us up, all we are is invisible. So down to the quantum level, I mean, to me, that's mind blowing. And then we live in this ever expanding universe, right? We use these cell phones that communicate without being connected to anything. And so I think we need to get out of that ego mind that thinks, we're the center of the universe, and say, we can't even understand the universe or our inner universe. Why can't all of this be true? So I think going into this time, really believing that your loved ones are around, especially going into the holiday times, which is always so tough. I think it's most important that people just stay plugged in, read a good book, listen to a great podcast, hint, hint. And I mean Jane's, not mine. Come to mine as well too, but why not? But stay plugged in every Sunday at 2:00 New York time. You have to do the math where you are. We offer a free Sunday gathering, which is just an inspirational, powerful, non-denominational service. And it's so much fun. And we leave everybody with a smile, but part of it is a free medium demonstration. So your loved one might come through. We also always offer weekly classes so people can tap into their own mediumship abilities if they like. And even if you don't want to be a medium, Jane, there's some magic that you get put in a breakout room with another person. Suddenly you think these things are your imagination, kind of like me with Jan and the fishing boat. And next thing you know, the person sitting across from you on that Zoom screen, they're saying, yeah, that was my loved one. Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah, that's what we did together. And so they do the same thing with you. So your loved ones can come through. So we always have a variety of different medium classes and specialty classes going on and different medium demonstrations. And like I said, you get a free copy of my book. You can listen to 570 plus hours of me between the two podcasts. I just started a Patreon club for those who want to give back, even $1 an episode. And you don't have to, you don't. But I created this account where people could get a full list of my 570 plus episodes, my new episodes of We Don't Die Radio, commercial free, because YouTube, of course, puts commercials on. And then you can search, if you are interested in near-death experiences or children, past lives, whatever that may be, you can do a search and you can, with a snap of the finger, listen to whatever interests you. So those are for my committed listeners that just want to give back. I did lose my full income once COVID hit, but I have a roof over my head, mom that loves me, food on the table. So I'm not crying poverty at all. I have a lot of love and gratitude in my heart.
Yeah, you do. WeDon'tDie.com. And I love that you can go on right now. And I'll make sure I put the link to the book, We Don't Die. Chapter 10 deals all about grief. And this is free. So, and what she's talking about with the Patreon, it's really nice. I mean, if I have a lot of friends that have Patreon accounts, and, if you feel that you are gaining something from Sandra and her wisdom, and you have the wherewithal to donate and give back and support her work, please do. It's no different than buying a song. It's no different than buying a book from an author. Artists and independent individuals that are trying to help us move forward and move consciousness forward, they deserve to be paid for what they're doing. And believe me, Sandra puts out a lot of free information. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for coming on The Next Room and sharing your just incredible, just your stripped down, beautiful nature with us. Really, really appreciate you being here today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Any final words?
Maybe just remember you're never alone. People give you your privacy, but we humans think that we're all alone in this world. If we could only see our loved ones, our guides, right around us, cheering us on. And then that final moment when we close our eyes on this side of life, we open them and we are reunited. Even our pets are there, Jane.
I love that.
Yeah, but life is important. Go live it. Go follow your dreams. Go make a difference with others. That's it.
Beautiful. Sandra Champlain, WeDon'tDie.com is where you can find her. I mean, she's literally everywhere, but you can go and source. You can join her on Sunday for their wonderful non-denominational service, where they actually have a medium come in and take all these wonderful things that she talked about to heart, and maybe do your own little deep dive and find out what you want to believe and where your loved ones are. Because in my estimation, I got a pretty crowded room right now, although I'm sitting here all by myself. So thank you again to Sandra for coming on The Next Room. I'll be back again next week. I appreciate you. Thank you. And if you can be anything at all, please be kind.